people. We're going live and direct once again, right here on IG, with the one and only Vibronics. Big shout out to everybody passing through. Big up yourself, Dwayne. More love, cuz, more love. Babylon is burning. Babylon is burning down. Babylon is burning. Just guide me, please. Got this feeling that I can't explain. Beg you, please. Tell my people go. Hey! We got there, we got there.
Technology, we love it.
I know, tell me about it. How are you first?
I'm good, thank you. Nice to see you.
And you too. You know, I feel like we haven't seen each other for ages.
Yeah, it's definitely been a minute.
So, you know, for people that don't know who you are, please do introduce yourself and let them know who you are.
Well, I'm Steve Vibronics, and I've been producing like roots reggae dubwise music for, nearly 30 years now. I run a label called Scoops, released over 80 vinyl releases on Scoops and dozens of releases elsewhere. And I play, DJ and mix live literally all over the place. So that's kind of what I do.
Wow. So I read somewhere that you started in 1996. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
You know what? You know what? I have to tell you, I was 3.
Well, I'm so old now that I keep meeting people that weren't even born when I started. So
Wow. So let's talk about Vibronics. Let's talk about you. So how did it all begin? What made you get into this work of music?
Well, I mean, I've always loved music. And when I was growing up, I was living in Suffolk, in like the east of England, and there wasn't really like a reggae scene or anything, but there was this big scene for like kind of like punk music and indie music and stuff. And I was into that kind of scene. I was playing guitar when I was like a teenager, and I just fell in love with making music. And it's only really when I moved to Leicester that I discovered like reggae and dub and sound system, because I was living in Highfields and it was just all around me. And I just completely fell in love with it from there. So I kind of moved from playing kind of like punk music and guitar into sort of technology, because in that time, early 90s, there was this new generation of technology, drum machines and synthesizers and stuff, and that was the kind of sound that was being played on the sound systems.
Yeah, I hear that. Wow. I mean, who was your first kind of sound that you went to see that affected you?
It was Abashanti, because in those days, basically in Leicester, before I came to Leicester in the 80s, there was a really big sound system scene, but I kind of missed all that. So just as I arrived, that had ended. But Abashanti had just started out, and he was playing regularly in Leicester, like every week, every fortnight. And I started hearing about that and going to that, and that just completely changed things for me. I've never heard music played like that before.
Yeah. Wow. Because on a sound system, it's so full. It feels, you can feel the energy right through you, right?
Oh, totally. And also, I think to put it in perspective, in those days, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, is that like nowadays, people have got really good headphones, they've got like sound bars and subwoofers, even an old car comes with a half decent stereo half the time. So people are just more used to hearing kind of like heavier music. But in those days, like, nobody had access to anything below whatever frequency. So any kind of bass was like a bit of a surprise, really, in those days. The technology didn't exist to hear it, but the reggae sound systems have been pushing those bass lines like since the 60s. So they were like the kind of masters of playing like heavy bass. And I'd never really heard bass like it, and it was just fell in love with it.
Yeah, I hear that. But you know, one of the questions that have been coming up a lot lately is, can there be too much bass?
The answer to that is yes.
Okay, tell me about this. You tell
Well,
me.
I mean, I love heavy bass. I absolutely love it. And I love it where it's kind of at the, a good sound system session. It doesn't have to be, but it can be very intense.
Yeah,
And it was definitely like that with Abashanti back in the day. Very intense, very loud, very, very heavy.
yeah,
And I loved that, and I still love that. But there comes a point, like, because in those days, the technology and the amplifiers, they weren't so powerful.
mm,
So you could only really push it so far. But now it just seems to be on like a whole nother level, and it's yeah, it can be too much, definitely, because you like basically you don't want to be in pain when
yeah,
you listen to music, but you want it to be intense, I think, for dub music. So you want that point where it's like it's intense. It's not like you're hearing it at home or anywhere else. You're having an experience, but you don't want that experience to be painful.
yeah. And I mean, I've experienced it where the bass has been too high, and yeah, my ears, my body's like, okay, this is enough now. I don't know about yourself, but whew, I had to leave. I had to come out.
Well, I'm in the studio every day mixing music as well, so I have to be careful with my ears. I kind of like to try and sort of hide in the corner half the time when I go out and when I play. I do love to play loud, and I do love loud music still. That's what one of the attractions. It's not the whole attraction because you've got the music and the vibe and everything, but I love loud music, and it's definitely something that's part of it. But for me, it's about balancing so it sounds loud and it sounds great, but it's just like you say, it's not too much. You don't have to leave the room.
I hear that, definitely. And one thing I wanted to ask you was, do you still play with a message? Because sometimes when the music is so loud, it feels like the message of the music kind of fades away, and it's all about skanking and more about the rhythm rather than the
Well,
message. So do you play with a message?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Because also back in the day, even like if you take Abashanti as an example, he was playing
Yeah,
a lot of raw instrumental rhythms. He was playing a lot of vocals, but he was playing a lot of instrumental music as well. And when you play that kind of sort of like kind of minor chord, mystical sounding music at a certain volume level on a certain sound system, it has an effect that's kind of sort of like uplifting and transcendent and kind of different to your everyday experience. So I think that for me is a big part of it. But without the lyrical message and the sort of political and social message, then I'm not interested. It has to be all of it together.
yeah.
But I can definitely feel the benefit of like instrumental music that can be totally uplifting. But the way I see it is you need to deliver it in a way where you're kind of sort of steering the vibe so it's uplifting.
Mm, I hear that. I hear that. And I'm sure you can feel the crowd. I know when I play, you can feel the energy. So you know if you're getting it right or wrong,
We try. We try.
Definitely. So let's talk about your label,
Hmm?
Scoops. How did that be? Why did you do a label? Was there a reason?
Well, I mean, when I first started Vibronics, it was just me. And then
Yeah,
not long into it, I met Richie Roots, who lived just around the corner in Highfields.
yeah,
And he started working with me as an MC. And then but he was already producing music as well. So we started to make music together.
yeah,
And at that time, we were both like vinyl junkies, basically. We
yeah,
were buying all the new releases, and we just loved vinyl. We love records. We love record labels. We were like nerds. We knew what all the labels were,
yeah,
and labels were this kind of like this sort of a good label. You'd go into the shop and you'd see that label and you'd be excited to buy a release from it, and you'd
yeah,
trust it. And we loved the labels that we really liked and looked up to. Things like
yeah,
Exterminator from Jamaica, and Yabba Yous, like those kind of labels that you knew what you were going to get. Then we wanted a label like that basically. So we said, okay, let's try and put a record out.
yeah,
And my love of sound system and the sound of scoop bass bins, still for me the best sounding bass line.
yeah,
We thought of various names, and it's like, yeah, let's call it scoops because we love scoops. We love to see and hear scoop bass bins. So we called it scoops. And then and that's it. We set off with a plan to release a record.
yeah,
And then like a lot of people that start labels, you suddenly meet loads of people, distributors, shops, other artists, and you sort of get invited into the thing through that. And then we just continued. And Rich is no longer with us, bless him. But I've continued with the label since then. And say
Yeah.
I've just put out release number 82.
Wow.
So
And hands.
thank you.
Because I know that the vinyl world is a very difficult one in the sense of expenses, even to putting it out there. I mean, you tell us some of the difficulties with vinyl and why you keep pursuing it, I suppose.
Well, I keep pursuing it because I love it. I love a record, and I think a lot of people share the same thing where if you like music and you've had any tradition of buying records, then to have your own music on a record is still something excited about. And I had some records that literally arrived this week,
Oh
and I'm
wow.
still just as excited to see, my productions on vinyl. It's an amazing thing.
Yeah,
Um, but what's different these days is like back in the day, records were cheap. Like anyone could afford a record, really. It was like, pound, £2 to buy a 7 inch.
yeah,
But now they're really expensive, and it's really only people with some money that can get into the vinyl thing. So that's why I always let my music out digitally as well,
yeah,
because I don't want price to be like a barrier. I want my music to be available to everybody. And because vinyl's expensive to press, therefore it's expensive to sell, means the price has just gone right up for the buyer.
yeah,
And that means that less people buy it because it's just much more expensive now.
yeah, yeah. I hear that. And as well, when it comes to vinyl, it always feels like there's so much quality on a
Hmm.
vinyl. When you open up a Bob album or you open up a D Brown album, there's so much quality on there. So because I know you do so many tracks, like you said, you're always in the studio. So how do you manage to put these pieces on a vinyl that may have, say, I don't know, five aside at most?
I mean, you just try and make it sound as good as you can. And I've been doing it a long time,
Yeah,
so I put a lot of records out. But also, like, even though the technology is super old now, the people pressing the records, they've got, when I started pressing records 20, 30 years ago, even though the machines might be old and the technology, the people pressing them have got 20, 30 years more experience. So I find that generally these days the quality is high of vinyl. People know what they're doing. And the last factories kind of left and the new ones starting up, they have this kind of passion for it.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's quite magical stuff, vinyl. It's like mysterious, definitely.
Let's talk about this vinyl
Let's
then.
go look at that. What a
About
beauty.
this vinyl. So, I mean, when I got this vinyl and it arrived, I was so happy to see that the fact that it had a showcase of women on there,
Hmm.
because it's something different. But what made you do that project, and why do you feel like it was important?
Well, it's a kind of continuation of a project we started like, I don't know, like 6, 7, 8 years ago, the original Woman on a Mission album. And at that time, I'd been playing a lot in the Czech Republic, and especially a lot at a club called the Cross Club in Prague. And they have this kind of political, kind of activist agenda, and their whole place used to be a squat originally, and now it's all made out of like recycled materials, and it's kind of interesting, crazy place.
Yeah,
And the people that run it are really politically motivated, and they wanted to get involved in some releases and some stuff outside of just promoting stuff in a club. So they said, "Look, we want to do something, but we want it to be political." And I said, well, I'd love to do an album that celebrates the rise of women as artists and producers in reggae
yeah,
music. Because back in the day, it was such a kind of man world thing, um, and I really wanted to kind of try and empower people to see that the reggae music's like open for everybody to get involved.
mhm,
And in that, the first release was all vocalists
yeah,
because I'm a producer, so if I'm going to collaborate with people, I love to work with singers. So okay, let's do it like that for the first release. But then Cross Club came back and said, "Look, we'd like to do a volume two," and I said, "Yeah, I would love to do that. Let's do it."
yeah,
And I said, "What I would like to do is work with more female producers this time because in the past there weren't so many female producers, but now there's many, many more.
Mm.
And I sort of proposed this idea to collaborate with artists who are female artists who are producing music, and we'd make music together and release it. So it's not, there's vocals for sure,
Yeah,
but there's also producers as well. Because I still think some women maybe feel like they can't get involved in production because the way the equipment's designed, the way the manuals are written, it's such a history of like kind of like almost
yeah,
misogyny and kind of
yeah,
like it's just for men. So I'd like to to show people that of course women produce music, and of course people, it's not just me responsible for that. I mean, women have been producing music for a long time, but anything
yeah,
that helps women get involved in music production I see as like a really powerful thing. That's what I wanted to do with it. And so when I hooked up with you guys, I could see that you were, you know kind of DJing and chatting and entertaining people. And
yeah,
it's like, would you want to come to the studio and let's see if we can make some music? You just live around the corner. So
yeah,
it's like perfect fit.
yeah. And it was actually a great experience because it showed, okay, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and it was also my first time in a studio ever,
Hmm.
so it was a great vibe, and obviously to be with yourself that's been in the business for so long, it was a great pleasure.
Yeah, because I didn't know, the only plan originally was like, let's see if we can make some music. Let's
Yeah,
see what we can do. And then it turned out that like, you were playing percussion and you were talking dub poetry, and the others were bringing singing, and Daniela was playing keyboards, and it was just a proper jam in the studio. It's like, we start with nothing, and then at the end of the night there'd be some kind of rhythm.
yeah, I hear that, and I'm excited as well because I hear that you and Dan are going out to Croatia to boss a vibe as
We
well.
are indeed, yes, yes. It first kind of international show together. So, because
Love
my
that.
wife's from Croatia, so we've got a lot of
Okay.
connections in Croatia. So it'll be the three of us. So it'll be me, my wife Fanny Rowe, and Daniela D. And then we will be performing at this little festival. It's only a tiny little festival on the coast,
Yeah,
but very beautiful part of the world. So definitely something to look forward
yeah,
to.
I love that. And if people are in Croatia, what's the festival called so they
It's
can come and
called
check you?
Sea Sound Festival, and we
Okay,
are there, I think, on the 20th of July.
okay, okay. I love that. And when it comes to working with artists, because you've worked with so many, has there been a highlight moment or a moment where you thought, whoa, I'm working with them?
Well, I mean, I guess there's been, obviously there's been some great artists I've worked with, people like Michael Prophet and L16 and Maccabee, especially people um, who have got like who come from the foundation of reggae and whose records I used to buy as a fan, and then
Yeah,
to have them in the studio working, that's just still to this day amazing. But especially the first few times that happened, that was really like, wow, I'm actually working with these artists.
yeah,
But also, I love to work with people like you guys, people who hadn't been to the studio but love music and have got some kind of vibe and some passion for it,
yeah,
and to trying to help develop that into something. And that's what I've done. I've released lots of music with people who've never released stuff before as well, and I still love to do that. So my mission is really, to keep working with some big name legendary artists, but also work with new artists and help kind of bring them on and develop and make something new as well. That's for me is a really important part of it.
yeah. I hear that. And you've been to so many different places. Is it mostly in Europe that you travel to, or do you go everywhere?
Well, recently it's kind of been everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, it's funny, when I started, I was just in the studio and I just wanted to make music for sound systems to play. I didn't really have any agenda to play live, or because you know in those days they were just the sound systems playing. You got Abashanti, you got
Yeah.
Oasis Steppers, you got Josh Shaka playing out, and it's like, well, they're doing the thing, and I'm not
Mm.
going to do that because they're doing it to such a high level.
Yeah.
But I'm happy just to provide music for those sound systems because that's how it all started. But then I just started to get, when you release a few records, people start inviting you to like DJ at a few places. and just started to really enjoy it, and it just took off from there, and it's been like that since. It started locally,
mm,
and then there were some calls internationally. Because when I started, there wasn't really a scene, much of a scene in France. There was kind of no scene in Italy,
mm,
in Spain.
yeah,
There were no sound systems in those days.
mm,
That's really happened in the last sort of 15 years or so, and especially the last 10 years.
mm,
Um, so I play a lot in Europe because there's a big dub scene, but also, I've always wanted to take my music as far as I can. So
yeah,
when I got invited the first time to places like Mexico, to Japan, it's like I kind of jumped at the chance. And, I'm someone who loves to travel.
mm,
So to combine that with playing music is great. And now there's a slowly small growing dub scene all over Asia. In Mexico and South America, there's a good, well established dub reggae sound system scene. So, it's quite a surprise. I never thought I would be taking my music to those kind of places.
yeah. I mean, when you do play, what's the response like? Is it like a crazy vibe, or
It
is it like
it
at first?
it just depends. It really depends. It's funny because um, like when I first started playing in Europe, people didn't even know what dub was.
Yeah,
You know what reggae was. They didn't know what dub and sound system music was. And now, even if they don't like it, they know what it is. So in the old days, it was people would be sort of surprised and kind of interested in it, and it would be their sort of first experience. Whereas now people know it much more, and it depends from place to place, country to country, sound system to sound system.
yeah,
I mean, there is more of a tendency for it to be madder and more energetic and more ravey these
yeah,
days than it used to be back in the day, I would say. And that, yeah, that's just kind of something that's slowly developed over the
mm,
years. But there's also plenty of places where people want to hear music and lyrics, and it's not so kind of crazy ravey.
yeah,
Um, but it's definitely more, especially in the scene I'm in. I'm in this sound system scene, so and sound systems, it's late and it's like dark, and it's a different kind of vibe really. And I've always been into that sort of thing.
yeah. I love that. I love that. Yeah, I know what you mean because there's like some. I've got to be honest. Sometimes I have felt, is this is the audience taking in what's being played, or is it a case of just how much bass you can play? And I have toiled with it myself, if I'm honest. I don't know about yourself. Have you ever toiled with it and
Oh,
thought, are they listening?
100%. I mean, there's times when you think I kind of could be playing anything, but then I think, well, no, because it's like I think people will still react. You have to play the right music for people to react to. And it's like it's quite easy to focus on the few mad people at the front or by the speakers who are really like letting off and
Yeah,
going crazy. But there's plenty of other people in the room,
mm,
and there's a whole load of people who are listening, maybe not going so crazy.
yeah,
And it's quite easy to sort of almost forget they're there because the energetic people kind of take over because they're much more noticeable. But
yeah,
there's always a whole section of people who are just rocking out and listening, and you know they may be listening more to the lyrics and taking the vibe in more, but because they're not jumping up and down and going crazy, you're just not noticing them so much. But they're
yeah.
definitely there in the dance, definitely.
I love that. And I've been to Cross Club in Prague. I went out there with Dasha, and
Nice,
it was a complete vibe, like a whole, like you said, it was dark and it was made out of different materials, but I could feel this energy, like a real positive energy. So when I seen
great.
that the vinyl was had Cross Club on it, I was like, I know
Yes.
that place, and
Well,
I
like I
could
say,
click.
they come from this like political squat culture, underground, so they've kind of built the thing up themselves out of nothing. So, they say they're politically motivated and they're really happy to be involved in projects like the Woman on a Mission thing that
Yeah,
seeks to kind of and Nina, who's the my sort of main production contact there. I mean, she's famous author and writer now, and she's always pursued kind of like feminist issues. And Kenzo, the guy who kind of does a lot of the booking and runs the club, is very sort of politically motivated. So I just love to work with people like that.
Yeah, who have a like a soul rebel, as it says.
100%. 100%.
I love that. So, what have you got up and coming? What can people look forward to?
Well, I mean, always busy. I mean, just this week, two of the instrumental tracks from the Woman on a Mission album got released on limited edition, nice orange 7-inch vinyl. That just came out yesterday.
Oh,
So
nice.
they're kind of out and about at the moment. Um, and then I'm just working on a whole load of new mixes for a new vocal project, which is going to be coming in the winter. I don't want to say too much about it yet, other than it's the first vocal album I'll have done. I've
Oh,
recorded
wow.
so many vocalists, but this is an old school vocal and dub album, and it's an original Rasta Roots album.
Oh, nice.
And because I've been involved in so much kind of up tempo, electronic kind of dub, which I love, that's my thing. I really wanted to do something that kind of went back to the roots,
Yeah,
because as I get older and want to start doing some different things. So I'm very excited about that project.
yeah. I love that. I can't wait to hear it, actually. I'm looking forward
Me
to
too.
it. As a
It's not quite
as
finished yet, but when it's finished, I really want to hear it myself.
a And as you're probably aware, so many legends have been passing
Hmm.
away into the next realm, as we would say. And I wanted to know, especially Just Shaka, I feel like a big part of the scene is missing when it comes to Shaka's vibe. And I wanted to know, what was his impact on you?
Well, I mean, Shaka was the founding father of the whole scene that I'm in, really. This kind of sound system, roots dub, kind of underground vibe
Yeah,
comes from Shaka. He kind of made the blueprint.
yeah.
Um, and it's funny because my own personal journey is like he wasn't playing in Leicester when
Oh,
I was younger. And there was a hardened crew of Leicester people that would go to the dances in London. I
yeah,
didn't get to go to those dances, so I only discovered Shaka a little bit later, like I guess kind of like mid 90s, really. Um, and I mean, what I guess I mean, one thing that was particularly amazing is the very first single I put out, a
yeah,
track called "Jar Like Jar Love." When it was released, it was cut onto an acetate and given to him as a dub, and he played it last tune a few times in London, and
okay,
that for me just gave me what an enormous amount of joy and kind of satisfaction, but really a lot of confidence
yeah,
because Shaka's at the top of the tree and he's playing my music like last tune, like the guidance tune at the end of the session, and it really was like, wow, maybe I can do it because I didn't
yeah,
have so much confidence when I started. The confidence came kind of
yeah,
later, and it's people like Shaka believing in me that really helped. And of course, Abashanti, when he was the first person to play my music,
yeah,
and then Irish and Steppers to play my music on the sound system. But with Shaka, like it's like you say, there's definitely a loss. Now he's gone,
yeah,
um, and especially in UK because he would play all around the world, but he'd only really play on his sound in UK.
yeah,
And since he stopped playing, then there is definitely like a hole in the scene and a loss. And and these sessions were gatherings, like-minded people coming together. And there's
yeah,
just less of that at the moment. And but which is not surprising when someone so important passes,
mm,
then there can only be a huge gulf left where
yeah,
that there used to be. So I think that will take some time to kind of heal from.
yeah, 100%. And his son, Young Warrior, I feel like he's trying to keep his father's legacy alive,
Hmm.
and he's doing a good job at that. So I have to give thanks for that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Because like you say, the legacy,
Mm,
it's like there's the 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 memories and the kind of work he did to create this scene that we're sort of all benefiting from, really. But also a huge catalogue of music and photos and videos and experiences, and it's like that's really kind of precious stuff that needs to be kind of cherished and then hopefully shared with people.
yeah, because that's one thing I've noticed, especially about the dub scene. There's pockets of information, but there's not a lot of archived information really.
Well,
I'm
back in the
hoping it
day, you
changes.
see,
So
well, the thing is, back in the day, then people didn't, you know, you'd get a lot of recording of the sessions. So there's a lot of sessions you can listen
yeah,
to going way back when, because people used to go and tape the sessions. But of course, people didn't have cameras, and especially didn't video cameras. And also, the sessions were dark and underground and smoky, and they weren't the sort of place you want to point a camera on someone's face. This whole culture of filming stuff is like, if anyone walked in with a camera in a dance back in the day, people would be like, "What's that? Is that the police?" You know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's like they were kind of like a secret, special thing. So there's very little footage.
yeah. I hear that definitely. And with that being said, when somebody films you now, because I know you've been filmed, I've seen videos here. How do you feel about it? Are you accepting it, or are you like, oh, can you
Well,
just
how
get
do
up?
I feel about it? I mean, it's funny because I have had come to accept it, but
Okay.
and I am in public playing everywhere. People can see me, and you know, there's a visual element to everything in music now. But I'm much happier being kind of behind the scenes, like in the
Yeah,
studio, you know, behind the control tower, whatever, in the dance. And I want to create a vibe and talk to people and kind of, but I'm not very comfortable with the hi, look at me, and you know, it's not my you know, because I'm a producer and a musician first and foremost, not like a celebrity or you know.
yeah. I love that. I think that's what I like about yourself. You're very humble in that sense. You like to be behind the scenes, play your tunes in the studio, but when you need to, you'll mingle.
Yeah, I mean, I have to, but it's like
Yeah,
it's you know in a lot of ways it would be nice if everything wasn't filmed all the time, and it's kind of you know people should just enjoy it for the
yeah,
moment it is really, I think. But it is a thing now, and it's just you know I guess yeah you had to roll with it to some extent, but yeah that's why yeah in the background is definitely my place.
yeah. I love that. And like you mentioned there, you're a producer. So what's the difference between, I don't know, being a musician, being a DJ, to then your producer head on? What's the difference?
Well, the musician or the DJ stuff came later, but
Mm,
the first thing as musician, I was like, I just love making music.
yeah,
I'm not a great musician, I'm not a fantastic player, but I've always been creative in terms of making music. And I guess when the whole computer revolution happened, it really helped people like me who can't play amazingly well, but have got loads and loads of ideas. So I really embraced the whole sort of technology thing. Um, but it's funny because like back in the day, you take something like King Tubby. King Tubby was a producer, so he paid for
yeah,
the stuff to happen and kind of made the situation possible for things to happen. But the musicians would write the music, the singer would sing the song, somebody else, either him or scientist, would mix it. So there was a whole kind of team of people, and like everybody had their roles. Same with Studio
yeah,
One. You got Cox and
yeah,
Dodd running the studio, producing it. You got Jackie Matu writing the music. You got the musicians playing it. So there are many more people
yeah,
involved. But you know, since the kind of the sort of digital revolution, if you like, then it becomes possible to wear many hats. So, and you know, one of the things I consider myself lucky with is that I can make music and sort of produce it, like make it happen, make the studio work,
yeah,
find a way to release it, and then to play it. It's kind of doing everything.
yeah. But I'm guessing that must take up a lot of your time. So how do you juggle everything? I'm always interested to know how you juggle all this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my main thing is still making music. That's the thing that I find the easiest to do,
Yeah,
and I get the kind of most direct fun from. And I love the
mm,
studio because I'm a nerd. I love the technology and whatever. But I do enjoy promoting and releasing and traveling, and it's kind of, there's some people, maybe I'd be a better musician if I didn't focus on the label and on traveling and stuff, and maybe I'd be a better producer if I didn't write the music as well, because, sometimes I do think I kind of spread myself too thin by kind of doing everything. But also, I come from this like punk
Yeah.
DIY background where if you're going to do it, you just got to go and do it because no one else is going to do it for you.
That's it. You know what? I feel like you're very honest about that because saying oh, it could be better, this could be
Oh, yeah, it's breaking up a bit there,
that,
Kat. I'm
but I'm doing what
struggling to hear you.
I need to do to get the job done. I feel like that's an honest statement.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've been doing it a long
Yeah, you're breaking
time.
up too. I'm not sure.
Oh, can you hear me?
Can you hear me again?
Okay, yeah. Let's say
Yeah, I
I've
can
been
hear
doing it a long time, and I never wanted to do anything else. So when opportunities started to present themselves that I could play music and have it as my life and my job, then I just went for it 100% because that's what I wanted to
you.
do. I was kind of super serious about it, and it's like, well, these are opportunities. This is what I've been, dreaming of doing when I was a kid, like playing music and touring and being in the studio and releasing records. It's like they were my dreams when I was a kid. So to be presented with some opportunities to do that, then it's like, I just had to go for it.
Yeah, I can see that you put your whole heart, your whole life into it.
And also, if you want it
Yeah,
to be, I consider myself lucky that I've got a long career. I've been doing it a long time. But you just have to keep working away at it as well. It's like, you can make a record and then it's like, well, what are you going to do next week, next month, next year? You need to have some ideas to make another one. And, you know,
that's it. You have to keep it going. So you're always on the scene. You all know what's happening, especially in the dub scene. Is there anyone in particular that we should keep an eye for? That you think, what, listeners, go and check out this artist or that artist?
I think you should check out the Sisters in Dub, definitely, because there aren't enough women in the reggae and dub sound system world, and it's wonderful to see. But honestly, it's great to see you guys like doing well, entertaining, and bringing your vibe, and also the fact that you're in the Midlands, like I am as well. You're not from London. It's like, respect to you guys for doing your thing. Um, and in terms of people to check out, I mean, there's just so many now, and I would sort of look to some sort of far off places and see what's happening in Mexico
Yeah,
and in Chile and in Japan and in the Philippines, and kind of see how people's take on it in those countries are, because it's like, reggae music comes from Jamaica originally, but I'm British. I live in the UK, so I've got like a British UK take on it, and then people in other countries have got their own sort of
yeah,
take on it. So,
yeah, definitely. And I I think he's called 10,000 Lions, and he's based in here. And I've seen these people skanking and shacking out to reggae and dub. It just lightens up my life all over the world.
yeah, 100%. I mean, and I've been lucky to go to
So
some of these
when it
places
comes,
like India and Mexico and
yeah,
Japan, and you're in the Philippines, and there's these people there, and they're just loving the music, and it's like I never thought I would be in somewhere like this playing my music. It just wasn't on radar at all.
yeah, wow. And people are asking in the comments, how can they book you? How can they find you? If they wanted to come in the studio with you, how does that all?
Well, basically, you can just email me, vibronics@gmail.com. All the details are just on top of the Instagram page. I'm super easy to get in touch with. I'm active in, you know, Facebook and so Instagram and stuff. So I'm super easy to get in touch with, definitely. So just drop me a line. You know, I love to hear from people.
Yeah. We've got coming out, or we want people to go and have a look.
So say
And go
that
and buy
again,
it.
Kat. It's breaking up a little bit again.
Essentially. I was just saying, how can people, or what comment, just to let them know so they can either go and check it out or they can go and buy the projects that you've been doing?
Well, the main thing at the moment is this continuing the Woman on a Mission album and promoting it and getting out to more people, and that's kind of what I'm working on at the moment. And then I've got a plan that I'm working on, so we just gotta watch this space.
Yeah. Okay, you're not giving much away, but I love that still.
Well, you know, people have got you know, there's so much you know, traffic around and people promoting stuff and whatever, so it's like, you know, I'll just keep quiet until it's time to announce what's happening.
That's it. 100% agree with that. So you know what, Vibronics, before we go, I mean, this interview it's lightened up my evening, I'll be honest. It's to kind of sit down with you and have a conversation with you for real. What kind of words would you like to say to listeners, the people that support you? And since loads of comments are coming up from all over the world saying how great you are as a person, what would you like to say to them?
Well, the main thing I'd just like to say is a big thank you to the people that support me, and I've never take it for granted. I never expect anyone to like my music. I try really hard to make music that I love, that I think is good enough to share with the world. And I just, you know, just want to thank the people that have managed to connect with what I do. You know, it's like I'm a big fan of music, so when I hear a tune I like, I love that tune. And the thought that maybe my music is connected with some people on that level, me roots reggae music is still something that's at the core of what I do. So, you know, I try and keep true to that and keep pushing that music and that vibe. It's like, that's what I want to do.
Yeah, 100%. And you know, in your own words, how would you describe dub?
Well, it's funny because like back in the day, people would ask, "What is dub?" You know, because people didn't know what it was. So, you know, for me, it's all about, like, it has to start with a reggae song, whether that's an instrumental or a vocal. It starts with a reggae song, and then the dub mix is where you start taking things out and messing them up with effects and giving people a different experience of that song. That's what I do, and that's what it is for me.
I love that. I love that. You know what, Vibronics, it's been a blessing, like I said. And I can't wait to do some works with you again in the future. And just keep the energy and the positive vibes going.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Looking forward to it.
Love that. So we'll speak again. And what's your appreciate that. Somebody's asking, what's your address again?
Oh, say that again, Kat, because it just cut out.
No problem. Somebody's asking in the comments, what's your email address again?
It's vibronics@gmail.com. It's on the top of my Instagram page. It couldn't be easier to find. So cool.
Yeah, man. Love that. Well, you know what, King? I hope you have a blessed rest of the evening, and I appreciate you taking this time to speak to us about some of your journey.
Yes, thank you, Kat. It's been a pleasure, definitely.
Love that. Bless her. We'll speak again.
Cool, man. Nice.
No, bless.